Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Are You In? Now, I've been meaning to go over this album for a very long time uh, and wrote the notes for this early November, but unfortunately never got to it. So it's time we look at Afraid of Heights by Billy Talent. Now, for those of you who don't know who Billy Talent are, they are a punk slash alternative rock band from Streetsville, Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. Their band members include Benjamin Kowalwisk on lead vocals, Ian DeSaw on guitars, uh, backing vocals, and keyboards, Jonathan Gallant on bass guitar and backing vocals, and Jordan Hastings on drums and percussion. Now, this band was also known as Pez in their earlier years, and had one album before that called Watouche in 1999, and then they had four previous albums before Afraid of Heights under the name Billy Talent. 2003, their first one drops. It's all right. It definitely establishes their sound, very punky, but with that alternative feel. It's something that I haven't really heard anywhere else, and it's really cool sound. There's a lot of really good songs on there. This Is How It Goes, Try Honesty, River Below, Nothing to Lose. Definitely all right, but not as cohesive as some of their other stuff. Billy Talent 2 dropped in 2006, and that is when they kind of made it onto the scene. It's a lot more cohesive in sound, a lot better singles. Devil in the Midnight Mass, Fallen Leaves, This Suffering, Pins and Needles, Surrender, all great songs. And actually, the reason why I remember Billy Talent was Fallen Leaves. I heard it somewhere, probably on a video game, and then re-heard of them during my college days from a friend of mine. Definitely their best album to date at that time. Then you have Billy Talent 3, which came out in 2009, and it's a good CD, but in general, not their greatest work. It was definitely a little bit more mainstream than some of their other stuff, and because of that, their singles were a little bit weaker. Devil on My Shoulder wasn't great. Rusted from the Rain, Down on the Landmine, all kind of more to the mainstream alternative rock scene rather than what they are known for. So it's a good CD, but definitely a step back. Dead Silence in 2002 is my personal favorite album by them. Every single song, for the most part, just hits and hits hard and is just great all around. You can't really find one. There might be one or two weak songs, but in general, it was a fantastic CD, and it was in my top 25 of that year. So Afraid of Heights came out in 2016. I personally didn't know it was coming out, so I was really excited for this because it definitely was a CD that I've been looking forward to since it had been years since they had put out a CD. And in this case, Jordan Hastings was the drummer for this recording. They used to have a drummer named Aaron Solowoniuk that unfortunately he wasn't able to be on this album. And Jordan Hastings from Alex is on Fire helped record this CD. So, what do I think about it? First off, let's go over some highlights of the CD. It definitely does continue with a lot of solid work. There isn't many songs that are more mainstream like Billy Talent 3, though I don't know if they always hit the highs of Dead Silence. My personal favorite is Ghost Ship of Cannibal Rats. I believe it was their third single on the CD, and something that didn't come out until like early 2017 in terms of the single. And I'm so glad it actually was a single because it has such an interesting feel, really fast paced. The drums, the bass, the guitars are really energetic, um, which matches well with the staccato lyrics of Ben. The lyrics are so interesting, especially the chorus, which is "Don't be afraid of the view from economy class. It's just a captain and crew jumping off of the mast," which is something like so interesting in terms of the sound. It's like, oh, don't worry, it's just all these people jumping off of a boat. Uh, like that's such a shocking phrase in general, and it just highlights how interesting and frenetic the pace of this song is. But the best part for me is apparently there's a story about this, which is the story of the deserted cruise liner MV Lyubov Orlov, whose crew had abandoned it years ago. And there's apparently rats that cannibalize their own infested on the ship. And at some point in time, the ship was supposed to make it to shore in Britain, um, but it never did, which is like, it's an interesting story that it's real. Um, but it's also, some great metaphor to it. It could be about humans leaving the world as a shipwreck and not worrying about if the ship, about it until the shipwreck actually returns to us. um, you know, and why I think that could be is because Billy Talent, among others, um, are really well known for their punk rock, but also their activism, and you hear it throughout their songs. Even from last CD, if you listen to "Surprise, Surprise," or you know a number of other songs on their CD, it talks about activism and it talks about the world and how we need to change it and look at the seat that we're in. This is probably the one that shows most of that message, and I love that because you don't hear a lot of punk bands. Uh, I mean, you do hear a lot of punk bands talking about stuff like that, but not in the way that I hear um, Billy Talent do it. So it's definitely cool to hear that. Another really powerful song is "Rabbit Down the Hole." It's I believe, their longest song on the album, and it's talking about drug addiction. And it's a song that just grows beautifully. It starts very, 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 very soft, and eventually it does break in to this very powerful song. With really cool guitar solos, really cool harmonies, and the message itself melds well with the music. So another awesome song on the CD. And then probably my third favorite song on this is "February Winds." Just a another song where the music and the lyrics work so well together, and the idea of um, this idea of something so casual as a February wind that could make a ripple effect of love and camaraderie that brings everyone together, which you hear in the lyrics themselves. So another solid song, and that's basically the theme of this CD. There's a lot of solid songs on there, but that's also its biggest weakness. Is that none of them really stand out in the way that a lot of Dead Silence did. You have just a lot of really solid songs that some of them just don't go anywhere. Even like the top two stand out for me, and even February Wind is great, but it's just another solid song. You go down the list. You go Big Red Gun. You have Time Bomb Ticking Away. This is just my order of like favorite songs. Like Half Past Dead, which is a bonus song. Um, Afraid of Heights, the first single, like all of them you could just basically bunch in together as very solid without being great. And that is my biggest complaint about this CD is that part, because if you go back to Dead Silence had a ton of amazing songs on there where you're going through to track 9, track 10, track 11, and you're not hearing a song that doesn't feel out of place, or that doesn't have its own character to it. Whereas a lot of these songs on this album wouldn't necessarily, I don't think would necessarily, work on Dead Silence. Another thing is a lot of repetition of the same ideas. Kind of like if we go February Winds, it's talking about trying to have camaraderie so that we can fight everything that's going on in this world. But then you get Time Bomb Ticking Away, which is another interesting song, but another way of talking about the state of the world and how we need to fight back against it before things happen. And then you have This Is Our War, another, oh, well, we're talking about this is our war, something that we need to take care of. It in general, it has all these really good songs about we need to work together, and this is our world, this is our life. We need to fight back, or nothing's going to happen, which is great. But when you hear 4 or 5 or 6 songs that have the same message, instead of delving into more specifics, it becomes all right, this is another song like this. Let's just move on. Let's just move on. And again, because they don't stand out, it just becomes more repetitive stuff. So that is one of my biggest takeaways against this. The other one that really doesn't make sense to me is Afraid of Heights is a good single. I appreciate it for what it is, but for some reason, the last song on the album, they do a reprise, which is literally almost the same, like, note for note song. The only thing is they make it a little bit longer and a little bit blander. They literally go for the same lyrics. I just don't understand why it would be there. Maybe there's symbolism of looking at the world, being like, you told me you would never be afraid of heights, so let's fight, let's be there, and then going through all the shit that's happening in life, and maybe then being like, are you still there? Are you still there to take that step, to not be afraid of heights? That's my only idea of why it could be there. Even that's not enough to defend that being the last song. So it leaves a sour note in my mouth that way. But, there's a lot of really good, solid songs on here. Though the singles aren't as strong as previous albums. Even with that single, Afraid of Heights isn't a great single. Neither is Louder Than the DJ. And sorry, that's another quick thing that I need to talk about. Louder Than the DJ is that stereotypical Rock Is Not Dead song, which, if Rock is not, it's interesting enough that Rock stays alive to make enough Rock Is Not Dead songs. So it's a cliched song, and it does nothing for the CD. I personally really don't like it, and it's very bland. So it's funny that a lot of these Rock Will Never Die songs are very bland, because if you're making them your singles, wouldn't you want them to be more interesting so that you could keep Rock alive, rather than be like, oh, this is a bland song, I see why Rock is dying. That's my personal opinion on that. So all in all, the singles aren't strong. Finally, when Ghost Ship Accountable Rats came out, they had a solid single that you could put in the pantheon of Billy Talent singles. But other than that, very weak singles. And that's why, for me, it ranks as my third favorite Billy Talent CD. Again, not bad, just all around solid without anything standing out one way or another other than a couple songs. But, you know, if you love like that alternative punk sound, or just like rock or rock and metal in general, definitely take a look at this CD. It's not bad. But then after that, definitely look at either Billy Talent 2 or Dead Silence, because those are much better songs. I mean, much better albums. Also, definitely take a look at the artwork on the album. I really like that. I really enjoyed just the color scheme. But that's it for tonight. Thank you for watching. If you do like this, you know, please always like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what other albums you would like me to review. Definitely subscribe to this channel so you can see more album reviews. I'll put a track list of this CD, as well as please definitely check out my top 50 albums of 2017. It was a really fun project to do, and I would love for all of you to see what my thoughts were, especially like what made my top 10. I'll put a playlist there, and definitely check out some more of my album reviews. But until then, I will see you next week for another Are You In? Peace.